So it's complicated. It's complicated.
Didn't they used to put, like, occasionally they'd put comments into these requests saying, we've seen it and we're doing something about it, or we're considering it, or...
Yeah, and there was a little bit of the discussion today was whether or not we were going to update a status of something. It's just like Brian just mentioned. Whenever you change a status on something, anybody who is subscribed to that or has voted on it will get a notification of a status change, right? And we all know that in our inbox we get 100,000 emails, and all we're going to do is read that subject line that says, "Hey, the status has changed to researching or investigating or whatever," right? And then we may construe that as being, oh, they're working on it. When in fact, if you go in and read the notes, you might say, well, there's all these issues, or we've decided not to do it, or whatever, right? There's a conversation that's happening, open, transparent conversation that's happening, and so what we've decided to do is that we're going to not go in and change the status of it. We're going to, as we have conversations about it, because sometimes these are just side conversations. They're not even like full-blown brain sessions. They're just like, hey, would that even be possible? And I don't know. Well, it's Android kind of supports that, and it's just like a 2-minute conversation, right? So at least some of those details can be put into the notes, so that people who are interested enough can go and read the notes and see what's going on. And then when the engineers are like, okay, you know what? We think we can do it. We've looked into it. We're ready to write the code for it. Then we can go in and move that status from from whatever it's entered into the system to being worked on. And then that way, when it changes to a status that's actively being worked on, people will they'll know that we mean it, and that they can expect something in the future. And then, however long it takes the engineer to write the code, because again, they're not working on just one thing; they're working on multiple things. There's bug fixes and all that stuff in the middle. But however long that takes, is as long as it will stay in that status. And then once it's complete, it's in the it's in the daily build, it's in the public release, whatever. Then it'll be moved to complete. And then it's just again trying to make sure that expectations are set properly, but then that we're also communicating clearly and transparently to the community, and everybody's happy.
I wonder if well, I'm looking at the page here. I've got it up again, and they've got the indicator for the started item.
Right.
I don't know how flexible this tool is that they're using for producing the output, the results, the web page. But I wonder if there wouldn't be like a way to do like a summary page. So they've got hot, top, new, etc. If there'd be some way to have a summary page that shows all the ones that are being worked on, or ones that have been declined, or maybe. So
you're saying like group?
What do you know? It's already got it started.
Right. Grouping it by the status.
Yeah, I don't read this much. I use it occasionally. Like, I get in here and I go, yeah, I like that idea. I've only once or twice added my own requests, because usually, very rarely do I need something that isn't already supported.
Well, right, and there's always going to be levels of shades of gray, I guess you could say, right? Where some people are going to some people are going to hear this and they're going, oh, great, it's good to know there's a feedback tool, and they're never going to use it. There's some people who may use it occasionally, and then there's some people who may be in there every day going, what's the status of this? Have they worked on it yet? Where they're really adamant about knowing what's going on, and that's great. So what we want to do though is make sure that that there's just not this long update, right? Because some of these features may take a while to implement, and so what we don't want to do is go from red to green, right? Like and just have this gap where people are like, well, what the heck's going on about this? We talked about it in the forums, but I submitted a thing for it, but I haven't heard anything about it, right? We want to compress that and make it just so that it's just more transparent, I guess, is the word I keep going back to as to what's happening.
So it almost seems like there needs to be a discussion status or something like that, but without, you don't want to create too much overhead for the engineers, because they've already got a bucket load of stuff to handle.
Well, and that's where we can go in to the notes, maybe input the dates that was discussed. I don't know. We haven't worked out yet, but going in and continually updating the notes with new information, so that anybody who wants can go and read that and see, oh, okay, I see that they've talked about, multiple properties. They've talked about performance. They've talked about, platform parity, and any issues, or maybe they need a clear use case, and maybe, those types of things. So some of these things are not as obvious to the engineers that it is to the user, right? So if a user comes in and says, hey, I need this feature, the developer says, okay, well, give me some more details. Give me a use case. Tell me exactly how you intend to use it, so that I can know how to implement it best. So it's yeah. So anyway, the real point of that is just to, again, make this. We're going to try to iterate on it, move it forward, and make this the centralized tool, the authority for feature requests, and, because there's it's been here. There's some people who said, well, that's where ideas go to die. You submit your idea and you don't hear anything about it, right? It either sits there and then so we want to make sure that we change that, and so that some of that's going to be a matter of regular updates, and also communicating that out. Again, back to the fanfare part. That's going to be our responsibility here to come and say, okay, hey, you know what? I'm looking at it right now here. The mouse scroll wheel events is started. And then talk about what that is and what the notes are and what that entails, and at least kind of point to it and make it the authority for information on these feature requests.
Mm-hmm. I would just say that I think that this page doesn't get enough visibility. I think a lot of people don't know it exists.
No, I agree. Totally. I
try to encourage people to use this and the bug submission, but two things people don't seem to know exist: how to submit bugs, where it is, and how to submit requests for new features, where it is.
Right.
But on top of what you're saying, I'm thinking that the engineers are pressed for time. They have a limited number of things they can do. Sure, if those who are in charge of handling the weekly blog could do an update or something like that and say, these are the items that got addressed from the wish list, the feature requests, that'd be cool. But I'm thinking what might be cooler is if there was somebody in the community who had a little bit of enthusiasm for this process, who could, sort of like Alex does for the top 3, he does the weekly top 3 in the forums. Somebody who had some enthusiasm for this, who could drum up a little bit of interest in the community for looking at this and using it and saying, hey, these are the things that are being addressed, or this is what I heard about these. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good, because it does take and that's what we're alluding to in this conversation, right? Is that somebody needs to surface these things and bring them to the top, and let people know that A, that the thing exists, B, that it's being updated, and C, that that's just, if they're gonna look for status updates on things, that this is where they should go.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that's a good idea. No, I like a community captain or a community. I don't know, whatever term you want to use, but somebody who leads that.
But something like that.
Well, right, yeah. And in the example of Alex, that's great. From the forum, every week he compiles a list of 3 items to highlight what's going on in the forums, which
and direct people back to using the forums.
Right, in order to get their questions answered. And of course, he always has to. There's a lot more than 3. But he's trying to summarize, so he's picking the top things, which takes some amount of human brain power, right, to be able to say, okay, well, here's the pulse of the community, here's what people are asking for, here's are the things that are most intriguing that I will surface to the top. And yeah, when you go into user voice or this feedback.coronalabs.com, there are a bunch of items, and it can be hard to know. I mean, just like Brian said, some of these things are more important to him than they are to somebody else, right? So even though something can be voted up as the top item, something at the bottom might be very important to somebody else. So it's hard to get a real feel for the weight or the balance of these things.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, now you got me playing around with the page over here.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's Ed's distracted. Job done. Let's go home.